Hey everybody, what a roller coaster. It's always startling to me to see the range of emotions on people's faces from going up to going down. You know, Bitcoin shot up nearly $4,000 in 21 hours. And then once it turns around, people forget very quickly what we've done in such a short window of time. It's like euphoria followed by death. It's really strange. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Thank you as well to TNT Tesla and Sean Donnelly and K8 and DasFam and Doc Intern and Zeno and Sylvan Munster. We've got people from all over the world. Really, Sir Winston's back. Amazing. Good to see everybody. Let's get into this. This is a big story. We're going to break a lot of stuff down, including some very exciting things behind the scenes and some not so exciting things as well. As usual, the ugly, the bad, and then the good in that order. Let's jump in. It is Tuesday. What else? Bitcoin market cap or the crypto market cap is nearly 2.5 trillion. Fear and greed's at 72, and Bitcoin dominance hit 57.3, which is really high. But it's what's happening right now. Every dog has its day, and what's happening now is it's Bitcoin's time. All right, so some of the other things can be lagging a little bit, and that's normal. But let's jump into it. And of course, not financial advice, just a guy on the internet. And shout out to Patreon as well. Patreon is a must, in my humble opinion, from Sean Banog 4. Banog? Hope I got that right. Thank you so much. And time for the ugly news as well. Let's get into it. First of all, the macro was a little bouncy this morning. We had what I call the JOLT Jolt. It's like being electrocuted. September job openings down unexpectedly, quite heavily. And this was a significant decrease in job openings, dropping to 7.44 million, which is lower than the 8 million expected, which is bonkers. And this figure represents a decline from previous months, signaling a very much cooling labor market. Also, layoffs and quits. There was an increase in layoffs by 165,000 for the week, and quits, I think, 107,000. Now, what's also quite alarming too is this JOLT's opening is the lowest since January 2021. And as a result as well, Treasury yields fell sharply. We've been talking about the bond yields spiking out of control. This has taken them back down to earth, which you could argue is a silver lining. But what's really bizarre, though, is we're coming into the holiday season in the US, which means stores are hiring. So for job openings to be less is very surprising. So this means it's covering up a situation that is actually way worse than meets the eye. Now, that was only one piece of ugly news, quite a bit of bad news. First of all, the breaking news that got everybody excited last week was Microsoft having, should we buy Bitcoin, make a Bitcoin investment on their shareholder vote thing. Anyhow, Microsoft urges shareholders to reject Bitcoin. It's very say HFSP. I think every company, if they're sitting on cash, they need to get rid of that cash and sit on Bitcoin at least. If they're not doing anything with the money, if they're not investing it or buying H100s or whatever else, buy Bitcoin. It's a freaking no-brainer. So, but you know, you can't teach these these old corporations new tricks, as they say. What else we got going on? We're still in the ugly section. ETH staking yield has fallen to 3%. And this is lagging behind all other proof-of-stake chains. Ethereum's current staking yield is 3%, down from 3.5%, I think, a month or two ago. And it's lower than Cosmos, Polkadot, Solana, etc., that all offer yields of 7 or 8% or more. And an analyst from Kaiko point out that the reduced staking rewards is kind of sometimes good, sometimes not good, but it's an overall reflection of the amount of use of the network. So that's not necessarily good for Ethereum. Also, narratives. The reason this is in the bad news section as well is because it kind of dovetails into Ethereum. We had a crazy month. Bitcoin up over 11% just in the last 4 weeks. And ETH is still flat. Memes are crushing ETH. Centralized exchanges are crushing ETH, etc. It's just ETH really has not had a good year at all, despite the fact they got the ETH ETF approved. So And this is also a little bit of data here on the ETH ETF. Simply no takers. I mean, Bitcoin ETF is pulling in $500 million a day, and this puppy is losing between 20 million and 1 million a day. So it is, and it just goes to show as well that you do need fundamentals to support price appreciation as well. And right now, it's like ETH is not growing. We'll get into more data about that in a few minutes as well. Another piece of, again, it's in the bad news category, but it's actually good news. But Larry Fink came out, this is from Watcher Guru. Larry Fink came out and he believes there's at least one other 25 basis point interest rate this year. That'll come after the election, circa, I think it's around the 13th of November or something. And I think we might get one in November, maybe another 25 basis points in December. But even as we saw too, despite the fact that they're cutting rates, the yields aren't going down. Like mortgage rates hit over 7% again. So it just shows you got to pay people a lot of money to take on these melting ice cube treasuries. Now, time for the good news. A ton of good news. The majority of the 50 nuggets is good news. So buckle in. First of all, we had greed, and greed. Last week, yesterday, and today, 72, which is good. Let's look at the last 7 days. I want to point out the Bitcoin dominance there at 57.08%. This is high because most crypto is garbage. However, this being said, over the last 7 days, many items have outperformed Bitcoin. So ETH outperformed it. Sol, Cardano, Avalanche, Binance, etc. You see XRP, who's printing off, well, XRP as usual, diluting like hell, printing off tokens and donating them near dark red, Arbitrum dark red. We'll talk Paul, which is the pneumatic dark red as well. So the layer 2s aren't doing so good either. And Vitalik has been talking as well about the new focus. Like you got to make things easier to use, cheaper and faster. Wow, wonder where he got that from. Anywho, let's look at the crypto market and melting ice cubes from the Crypto Compendium. On the top, we've got the last week, and on the bottom, we've got the last 30 days. And the winner for the week is Rune, Doge, Solana, and WIF. Two of them are meme coins. And the winners for the month are Doge, Aptos, Sol, and WIF. And the losers for the week, a couple of L2s in here, Arbitrum, Matic, Aptos, I think L1, and Kaspa's in there too. So again, a mixed bag all across the board. But the point is, Bitcoin is outperforming most. Now, I want to talk a bit about what happened today, because last week on OCTA, I talked about week 44, or maybe sometime, I don't remember what day it was, but I talked about week 44 historically being the best week of the year for Bitcoin. And it has not disappointed. Yes, let me check the current price because I know we're down a little bit. People are freaking out. Bitcoin fell to 72K. But remember, this morning, it was at $69,705. Okay. It shot all the way up to $73,624. Let's call it $625 for simplicity, which is only $210 from all-time high. We went from 69K to nearly all-time high in 22 hours, everybody. That is a massive, massive move. Caught a lot of people by surprise. Probably a lot of squeezing there because a lot of people are short Bitcoin. And isn't it sad when they get their faces ripped off? Like, week 44, who would be short Bitcoin? What type of idiot would do that? I feel like the guy in the, wears the red robe that I wear on Halloween, or no, April Fools. Anyway, I can't remember his name. So this is a big, big move. Again, people are disappointed. We go from 69K to nearly a new all-time high. Missed it by $210, and people are like, oh, we're all dead now. Give it time. This is the market makers at work. This is how they make their money, by wrecking leverage longs and leverage shorts. Expect massive volatility. Keep your seatbelt on. Also, let's talk about money. Still talk about money. The challenge about money. Digital asset inflows reached $901 million last week, pushing the year-to-date inflows to $27 billion. Okay, I'll repeat that. $27 billion. Guess what the record was in 2021? $9 billion. This year is triple the previous record. triple, bonkers, huge money flows. We'll get into those too. Let's look at the breakdown. You'll see a couple of things here. Ethereum down 34.7 million for the week. Bitcoin up 920 million. Solana up 10.8 million. Remember, Solana's a much smaller asset. But as you can see, as usual, the focus was almost entirely on Bitcoin with that big, nearly $1 billion in. However, it was not accompanied by inflows into short Bitcoin positions, which is usually the case. That drained out, which is another kind of bullish signal. When the shorts aren't going short, unless they're kind of newbies or people who don't know what they're doing, is kind of unusual. And a lot of people as well believe the current Bitcoin price flows are heavily influenced by US politics, with the recent surge inflows likely to be linked to some changes in some of the polls that are out there. Now, the positive sentiment also was not reflected in Ethereum, seeing the largest outflows of any asset last week, and Solana saw the second largest inflows at 10.8 million. Remember, Solana is 17th the size of Bitcoin, so it is tiny, and it doesn't have an ETF yet. We'll talk more about some ETFs that are coming too in a minute. Now, this is great. This is from Econometrics, and he talks about the third big phase. In fact, we have had the strongest inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs since March of this year. Remember, Feb, March were bonkers, huge amounts. And then we had a little bit of a pump, May, June, and then the summer doldrums, tiny spike towards late July, and then down. In fact, a little bit of sell-off too. But now we have massive accumulation. Let's look at some of my charts to highlight exactly what this looks like. Our little pink polynomial line has turned up. I was going to draw some eyes and some teeth and make it into a big smiley face, but I thought that would be too childish. But hey, I didn't have the time. Next time I'll do that if the polynomial continues. But you can clearly see here the big strength at the beginning, the summer doldrums in the middle, and then a resurgence up. Another view of the world, too, is the amount of Bitcoin gobbled up by these ETFs in just 20 days, which is the number of trading days we've been through so far in the month of Uptober. 54,000 Bitcoin sucked into 9 ETFs in just 20 days. All right. That's 54,000 is the amount produced by miners in 120 days, or a third of a year. That's an average of about 2,700 Bitcoin a day. And remember, only 450 are being issued. So these things are sucking in 6x daily issuance. And that assumes that miners all over the world are selling everything that they mine, but they're not, because we know Ethiopia, Dubai, El Salvador, Bhutan, all these places, probably a whole bunch of stuff in Russia and China, they're mining and they're not selling. They're stacking. So watch this space carefully. I don't know why. I'm trying to find out the OTC desk balance. If anyone knows what it is, drop it in a comment below. I couldn't find it lately, but I have a funny feeling they're getting lower and lower. Another view of the world, too, is who's buying all this stuff? Well, red line is Blackrock. Massive days. I mean, they're doing $250 million to nearly $500 million a day, almost like clockwork. It's pretty insane, and they're leaving everybody else in the dust. The Fidelities, the Bitwise, etc. BlackRock is a massive, massive player here. And this may have to do with the kind of roadshow that they were doing in Brazil and Europe and other parts of the world, where they were telling their investors, you need Bitcoin. The world is going to hell in a handbasket, and you need a hedge, and that is Bitcoin. So, like, the message heard, obviously loud and clear. So I now call BlackRock the global marketing department for Bitcoin. Thank you, Larry. And what else do we got? Today, I just crunched. I tweeted this out before the market actually closed, but we had a huge amount of volume today. In fact, by my records, because I do track volume, the 70 million before the close was, I think, the second highest volume day ever for BlackRock. And it's probably the second highest day for everybody, if not the highest. BlackRock did 3.3 billion in volume. Fidelity, nearly 600 million. Grayscale, 400 million. ARK, 136 million. Bitwise, 130 million. VanEck, 40 million. Invesco, 17, 18 million. Big, big volume today. I'm interested to see what the numbers are tonight. Now, given what's happened – and the fact that we nearly hit a new all-time high for Bitcoin, It wouldn't surprise me if some of this volume was net selling, but we'll find out tomorrow. So stay tuned for that one. Also, let's check out where we are in the cycle. Track your eye on the black line. That's the current cycle. And we are here. We know what happens next. Ignore the blue one because that was in 2011 and nobody knew what Bitcoin was back then. Or if they did, they're very rich people and they stay very quiet right now. Then you have orange. Bang, we go bonkers. We have teal, which is the light bluey line. And then green. Bonkers, bonkers. We are going to go bonkers, ladies and gentlemen. And it's uncanny. It is uncanny how seasonality works for this asset. Uncanny. Now, hopium shot of the day. Ready, everybody? VanEck, they came out and they predicted on, I think it was NASDAQ, somewhere like that, or CNBC. VanEck predicts Bitcoin will be worth $3 million in the future, in the next 2 decades, 2.5 decades. And they predict it'll be worth at least $3 million and it'll be used as a global reserve asset by 2050. And their model assumes that Bitcoin will be used in global trade at a 2% weight and arrive at $3 million. And by the way, $3 million by 2050, which is 25 years away, is only a 16% CAGR, compound annual growth rate, which is not a lot considering the amount of returns we've had on this asset in the past. So all in all, not doing too bad at all. But remember as well, the amount of debasement over the next 2.5 decades will be massive. So I estimate $3 million will probably be worth about 800,000 of today's buying power, which is basically like 2 houses. Still not bad, but again, nobody can predict out 25 years, but I just thought I'd share that note as well. And also, there's a perfect storm building. This is a cool report from Bitfinex, and they talk about massive volatility incoming. They talk about the perfect storm of the TT and Q4 seasonality. Basically, TT is tied to the trade that's happening right now. People anticipate a certain result, and that in combination with Q4 for Bitcoin is massive. These two are hitting at the same time, and according to Bitfinex, huge volatility and huge price gains are incoming. So interesting to get that perspective. And some people are counting their chickens before they're hatched. Brian Armstrong from Coinbase urges the next SEC chief to apologize for crypto crackdown, which means somehow Brian Armstrong is assuming Gary Gensler is already gone. Well, here's to wishful thinking. Why not? And also, Bitcoin leverage has not been this high since 2023. This is a chart I pulled from Crypto Quanta. You can see the purple line is the amount of Bitcoin leverage in the market. It is bonkers high, and the price has not moved in response. But the folks that know are getting into heavy leverage right now for Bitcoin because they are extremely bullish on where things are going. So I'm struggling to find indicators that are bearish. I really am struggling. Unless, of course, we get a nasty surprise in the next 7 days, things should just be fine. And today was a glimpse of what's going to happen. Again, $210 from all-time highs, bonkers. Let's look at where we are. It is still Bitcoin season versus alts. Score is 29. But remember, some alts are actually doing very, very, very well. But the average are not. Because now people realize of the 30,000 cryptos out there, 99.5, maybe 99.9% of them are complete garbage. Make sure you're in the top 0.1%, ladies and gentlemen. There's no room in your bag for anything else. Let's get into some of the data here as well. Let's talk about the amount of crypto transactions, daily transactions, that are happening today. Now, if you break down all these numbers across all these chains that have the most traction, the most transactions, there is one chain that continues to rule the roost, and that is Solana, 43 million. Tron is second at 8.1 million. Near Protocol third, 6.1 million. Remember, Tron is all stablecoin transactions, and Near Protocol is 60% social shopping coupon transactions, whereas Solana's all DeFi DEXs. And yeah, they might be trading memes, but they're also trading a lot of other stuff, like the stuff I do every day with perps. Anyhow, that's the daily transactions. It's stunning. If you add them up to, let me see, Ethereum, 1 million. So Solana's doing 40 times more transactions than Ethereum and 1,070 times more transactions than Cardano, just for perspective. Anyway, just, people sometimes say, oh, but the users are bots. Again, there's bots everywhere. As we discussed on DCA yesterday, AI agents will be becoming more pronounced. There'll be even more bots than ever before. The point is, there are humans behind the bots making things happen. Anyway, that's why I look at transactions. And in other news too, Solana smashes all other chains on DEX volume. Boom, game over. Absolutely destroying them all. This shouldn't be any surprise. We also had the largest airdrop in history on the Solana network, and it maintained 100% uptime as the getgrass_IO airdrop, largest in Solana's history by user participation, is underway. There was a small little problem, however. Most of the people were getting their grass on a wallet called Phantom. Phantom did have an outage for about an hour or so yesterday, but ever since then it's been fine. So only blip, but the chain was not affected at all. And we talked a lot earlier this year about real world assets and the tokenization of everything. This is kind of interesting. There's a new thing called AgriDex. Again, a verticalized application for real world assets. And it integrates a bridge to enable cheaper and faster cross-border agricultural trade settlements using USDC. And the platform allows buyers and sellers to transact in local currencies while leveraging the blockchain technology, and it reduces fees from about 4% to a fraction of a percent. And AgriDex secures trades with NFTs containing transaction details, streamlining the entire process from listing to settlement. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We know real world assets has been alive and well. A lot of people thought real world assets would only work on Ethereum. No, now we have global agricultural deals happening on the Solana blockchain for a fraction of the cost, powered by NFTs. That's it. So, and one of many use cases. There's another one too, another real world asset. This is the first real world asset backed synthetic stablecoin. And this is from SolLayer. And again, anybody with at least $5 can access tokenized real world assets, starting with US Treasury bills. It's now live. And that's in partnership with Open Eden. So again, watch this space. The world will become tokenized. Everything will be on the blockchain and global and instantaneous and cheap. And that's it. So we'll see. Also, this one got me by surprise today. Chainlink. Chainlink is hedging their bets with Solana. While they haven't fully moved to the Solana platform in the sense of abandoning other blockchains, they have significantly fortified their infrastructure on Solana, aiming to enhance both platform offerings in terms of functionality, scalability, interoperability, and speed, and also help support all their other use cases. And this reflects Chainlink's broader strategy to being completely blockchain agnostic while providing specialized enhancements where they can benefit most. And this is, again, part of my whole black hole Sol thesis. Everything is migrating over. Everything will be multi-chain, and everything will gravitate to the best, cheapest, fastest, most secure blockchain that's out there. It's that simple. And this is why Chainlink woke up. A lot of stuff that Chainlink does as an oracle is it verifies DEX transactions. And they saw their pie being eaten by another oracle called Pith, which I own in full disclosure. But you can see here, Solana versus Ethereum weekly DEX volume. Solana not only has gone beyond the tipping point, it's now running at nearly 180% of that of Ethereum, which is stunning. And this is what the team at Chainlink saw. And they said, uh-oh, we better move or we're going to die. And that's just how it works. And shout out to Gumshoe as well, a friend of the channel. He says, Solana ticked all of my pillars, which made it the most obvious bet I've ever taken in my life. By the way, Gumshoe is a top-notch analyst and a very good follow on Twitter. He said clear technical superiority, early rise in activity, value destruction, and black swan. I guess that's surviving a black swan. Post-activity recovery and aggression from competitors. It's funny, the fifth point there, that's another way of saying the most hated asset, which I always tend to be in the most hated assets because they tend to be the most because they disrupt the world and people don't like that. Therefore, they hate disruption. Therefore, they hate these assets. QED. Simple. Let's talk about stocks. We've got a couple of things to uncover here, which I found very interesting. First of all, the week was kind of flat. Again, the JOLTS number didn't exactly help. Treasuries are down. but everything is kind of either up or down 1%. Microsoft up 1%, Apple flat, Nvidia up 1%, Amazon up 1%, Tesla down 1%, and that's after a bonkers 22% week last week. Netflix up 1%. It's like everybody now, it seems like they're in a holding pattern. Obviously, because the next 7 days were critical. Nobody is deploying much, but I have seen some money flows coming over from Europe into US-based stocks of late. And this is other news too. I touched on this yesterday on DCA, but Solana flips PayPal's market cap, which is pretty impressive. PayPal has been around for 25 years. I'm your Huckleberry. Thank you so much for coming. 25 years, and now it's been eclipsed by this brand new blockchain in terms of market cap. And of course, it does a lot more transactions, has a lot more daily users, etc. So it's, again, everything is moving to the blockchain. That's why we're in this space, and that's why it's exciting to watch. Now, there is some other news too. Shout out to Marty Party. He talked about this back in August, that Brazil is launching a spot ETF, and that spot ETF is launching in 1 week. So there'll be continual demand on the Solana blockchain tokens. Again, it'll be nothing like the money flowing into Blackrock, but again, yet another ETF around the world in Brazil. And those people in Brazil, they love their crypto, and maybe they use it for international agricultural transactions. And this was another interesting thing too. Maybe because, I have a theory, because there's so many ETFs and proxies and everything out there right now, somebody didn't notice this happening, but Solana OSOL, which is the Osprey Solana Trust, was actually trading at a discount this morning. And, if you look at the GSOL, the Grayscale Solana Trust, that's been trading most of the year at a 600% premium. This puppy was at a discount, which is kind of unusual. So anyway, those ARB opportunities can still be found, but they never last very long before people see them. So keep an eye out in future. And speaking of other stuff too, this is the new SUSD. It's a fully permissionless US Treasury bill stablecoin backed by Solana, as we touched on before. I don't know how this slide snuck in here. It wasn't supposed to be here. A little bit of AI news too. NVIDIA announced xAI, which is the Elon Musk AI machine that's designed to destroy ChatGPT. They call it Colossus. Their Colossus supercomputer is in a place called Memphis, Tennessee, and they have 100,000 H100s, and they're going to double that to 200,000. So for a minute, you think that NVIDIA is topping out and there's no demand for their products. Oh, no. There's a lot of demand for these machines and their new H200 as well. And speaking of Elon Musk and his companies, this was a happy story. I thought it was worth sharing. Starlink Wi-Fi connectivity. Shout out to Sanjay as well, who got this to me. This was incredible because a lot of these people are at sea for sometimes 6 or 9 months at a time. These servicemen and women on these big aircraft carriers and other ships and submarines and whatever. Actually, I don't know if submarines can get Starlink. Probably not, unless they float. But what was interesting, this is the USS Dwight Eisenhower aircraft carrier and its battle group. And they returned from extended high-stress combat deployment in the Red Sea. And the cool thing is they had Wi-Fi from Starlink, and it really helped people connect with their external support networks in ways that they've never seen before. And that was from Captain Chris Hill, I think, who is unapologetically bullish about elevating crew morale. And that's just how Starlink can change lives, save lives, especially in things like North Carolina, hurricane disaster areas. Internet communications are absolutely critical, just like power and electricity. And speaking of SpaceX, this is the twist. As you may know, if you're watching this channel, I've been looking for a way to get exposure that isn't too costly. But this is from Dr. Tim Farrer. SpaceX subscribers are exploding. Looks like SpaceX will end the year at 5 million subscribers. Last year was 2 million, and next year it'll be 8 million. And it's heading to 18 million plus. And also, they're doing a lot of commercial contracts with airlines, as you mentioned, the Navy, and other groups all over the world. But what's really interesting about this is now, for the first time ever, there's a global communication network that's soon going to be plugging in cell phones as well. And then it's going to become very dominant. So I'm extremely bullish on SpaceX because of this and the fact that nobody else can touch them. Nobody else. They have an insurmountable advantage. And the stock, which you cannot buy unless you are an accredited investor. If you are, you can go to Hive and you can grab some. But I've been watching this from a distance for a while, and this year it's up 60%. I was looking at it yesterday. It was at $138. Today it's $134. This thing just keeps going up and up. And I do believe in a week's time, depending on the actual result, this company could actually double very quickly because there will be big contracts coming. Now, the reason I'm talking about this too as well is we're talking about treasuries and crypto proxies for a long time on this channel. Began with MicroStrategy in 2020 and on from there. But this is a company up in Canada. Shout out to the Canadians, called Neptune Digital Assets. The ticker it's an OTC, which means it's a pink slip stock. It'll only be available on big brokerages like Fidelity, Schwab, etc. But it is also available on some European exchanges. But basically what they have, which is very interesting, they got a big bag of SOL, very big bag of Bitcoin, over $25 million worth. And they have quite a chunk of SpaceX. And that holding is worth about $3.6 million. Not big, but compared to the size of the company, it's quite big. So SpaceX makes up about an 8 or 9% holding. So I did buy a little bit of this. Again, there's a big premium for it, but when you can't get exposure to something that you want, like SpaceX, and I'm fine with exposure to Bitcoin and Solana, why not? A little bit of a flutter. So that is interesting. The orange, by the way, is Bitcoin, purple is Solana, and the white is SpaceX. That's the story for today. By the way, this is probably already selling at a big premium, so be careful. Wait for it to mean revert and get cheaper, and then nibble. Why not? If you need a little bit of SpaceX, it's not going to go down. That is SpaceX, not going to go down. And don't forget, all these videos, all the slides are available from the team on a Substack every day, and you can listen to them as well. Thank you all for coming. Hit the like and subscribe. Just to remind people too, when you hit the like, it shows you content like mine, not necessarily my content again. So it's a very helpful thing. If I ever see a video that I love, I always hit the like, and that way I can find content like it. If you don't, Google doesn't know what you like to watch. Okay? Or if you don't like it, you can do down thumb as well. Thank you, TND Tesla, and everybody here. Thank you. I'm your Huckleberry, DBF430 on our side. Have a great day, everybody. See you tomorrow. And let me check on the Bitcoin price. 72.3. Again, market makers did their thing. They liquidated the leverage longs, wiped them out, took their bags, and now they're going to go back up again. That's how it works. It's week 44. It's going to be a good week. If history repeats, and so far it's been bang on. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.